Draco and his gang of lackeys, Crab and Goyle, cut a confident path through the swarm of students, their shoulders back and heads held high. They move like predators among prey, their footsteps heavy, their confidence palpable. Draco's grey eyes dart around the hallway, taking in everything with a practiced nonchalance. His gaze lingers on groups of people, sizing them up with subtle disdain, before he turns the corner into a slightly quieter corridor. As they reach the quieter corridor, Draco slows down, his strides becoming more leisurely. Crab and Goyle follow his lead, their hulking shadows flanking him on either side. Draco stops in a secluded spot, folding his arms as he turns to face them. "All right, listen up," he begins, his tone commanding. "I've got something to discuss with you two." "Potter," Draco starts, his expression hardening at the mention of Harry's name. "He's up to something, I can feel it. He's been watching me lately, I'm sure of it."
Crab and Goyle share a glance, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern.
Draco's annoyance is evident, his grey eyes scanning the empty corridor as if expecting Harry to appear at any moment. "And I don't like it. I need you two to keep an eye on him, see what he's up to."
Crab and Goyle nod, their heavy brow ridges lowered in agreement. "We'll keep an eye on him, don't worry," Goyle mumbles.
"Good," Draco says, a smirk tugging at the corner of his lip. "We can't have Potter sniffing around, sticking his nose into my business." Draco continues down the corridor, his pace quickening as he leaves Crab and Goyle behind. He has business to attend to, and he needs to focus. As he walks, his mind drifts back to Harry, irritation flickering in his eyes. His thoughts are interrupted as he hears a group of students up ahead, their laughter echoing through the hallway. He stops, his grey eyes narrowing as he listens to their conversation. The group of students ahead is a mix of various houses, but Draco's attention is especially drawn to a group of Gryffindors. He recognises a few from Harry's little gang. Their carefree banter and laughter grate against Draco's nerves, and he clenches his jaw, his shoulders tensing. He considers walking away, but something keeps him there, listening in. One by one, the group of students notice Draco's presence. They fall quiet, the laughter dying on their lips as they turn to face him. Their expressions range from mild confusion to outright hostility.
A tall Gryffindor girl, her red hair tied back in a ponytail, shoots Draco a glare. "What do you want, Malfoy?" she asks, her tone sharp.
Malfoy smirks, his eyes sweeping over the group. He takes his time to reply, his arrogant facade firmly in place. "Just passing through, Weasley," he responds, his voice dripping with disdain. "Unless you and your little troop of Gryffindor do-gooders are planning something I should know about."
The Gryffindors exchange glances, their eyes narrowing as they realise who they're dealing with. Another boy, this one with messy black hair and glasses, speaks up. "We don't owe you an explanation, Malfoy," he says, his voice steady. "You're the one who's always sticking your nose into other people's business."
Draco rolls his eyes dramatically at the retort, feigning boredom. He doesn't dignify it with a direct response, instead choosing to continue walking down the hall. Yeah, save the heroic speeches for someone who cares," he mutters, just loud enough for them to hear. His pace remains measured, his chin held high as he strolls past them. Draco strides confidently into the busy hallway, his gaze darting around as he looks for you. His expression is a mix of annoyance and slight impatience, his eyes skimming over the sea of students. "Where the hell is she?" he mutters to himself, his eyebrows furrowing. "Come on, where are you?" he mumbles, his sharp gaze flitting from face to face, his steps becoming more hurried. Although Draco's irritation runs deep, he can't help but think about you. Memories of yesterday flood his mind, your laugh, your touch, your presence. Despite his best attempts to remain aloof, a small chuckle escapes Draco's lips. He can't deny it, he misses you dearly. The thought of you consumes him, making it harder to maintain his usual cold facade. "Bloody hell," he murmurs, running a hand through his hair. "How did I get so damn soft for her?" Draco's heart skips a beat as he sees you at the end of the hallway. His expression softens, a genuine smile tugging at the corner of his lips. He starts towards you, his pace almost leisurely now, his steps measured yet full of purpose. His grey eyes are locked on you, drinking in your every feature as he gets closer. Just as Draco is closing the distance between him and you, his path is blocked by Harry Potter emerging from a nearby corridor. The sight of Potter's face is like a cold bucket of water thrown over Draco, his momentary good mood extinguished in an instant. "Potter," he mutters through gritted teeth, his annoyance returning in full force. "What do you want?"
Potter's expression is stern, a hint of anger in his green eyes. He looks directly at Draco. "You're one of them, aren't you?"
Draco's irritation spikes at Potter's words and tone. He crosses his arms, his grey eyes narrowing in a glare. "And what if I am, Potter?" he retorts, his voice sharp and biting. "You got a problem with that?"
Harry's gaze hardens, his jaw clenching. "Your whole family's full of Death Eaters, aren't they?" he says, his voice laced with contempt. "You're just like the rest of them."
Draco bristles at the accusation, his body tensing. He knows the shadow of his family's past hangs over him, but the sting of Potter's words hits deeper than he'd like to admit. Draco's eyes narrow, his face hardening as he glares at Potter. He takes a step closer, his voice low and dangerous. "Watch your mouth, Potter," he growls. "You have no idea what you're talking about."
"Your father was a spineless, cowardly Death Eater," Potter sneers. "It's no wonder you're turning out just like him, a snivelling, entitled git."
Draco's hand moves lightning fast, drawing his wand with a swift, practiced motion. He points it at Harry, his grey eyes flashing. "Don't ever talk about my father like that," he spits, his voice shaking with anger. "You know nothing about him."
Harry doesn't back down, his chin raised defiantly. "I know enough," he retorts. "Your father is a disgrace, and you're well on your way to following in his footsteps."
Seeing Harry pull out his wand, Draco's grip tightens on his own. The adrenaline is pumping, the room charged with tension and anger. "Don't do something you'll regret, Potter," he hisses, his voice low and dangerous.
Harry's defiant expression softens slightly, his gaze flicking from Draco's pointed wand to his face. He lowers his own wand, the tension in his body easing slightly. "Fine," he mutters, his voice quieter now. "I don't want to fight."
Draco relaxes a fraction, but his guard is still up, his wand still held at the ready.
Harry lets out a frustrated sigh, his shoulders sagging. He turns around, his gaze dropping to the floor. The air is still heavy with tension, the animosity between them palpable. With an unexpected lunge, Harry spins back around, his wand raised. A hex is already on the tip of his tongue, but just as the spell is about to hit, you suddenly jump in the way, taking the brunt of the spell instead.
A cry of surprise escapes your lips as you're hit by the hex, the magic searing through your body. Draco's eyes widen in horror as he watches you fall to the ground, the shock momentarily breaking through his usual composure. Draco's heart races as you crumple to the ground, his mind racing with panic and anger. In an instant, he moves to your side, cradling you in his arms as he turns to face Harry, his eyes ablaze with fury. "What the hell did you do?" he roars, his voice filled with a mix of anger and fear.
Harry's expression is a mix of shock and guilt, his face pale as he realizes what he's done. He opens his mouth to speak, an apology on the tip of his tongue, but Draco's venomous glare stops him.
Draco's voice booms through the hallway, his face contorted with a mixture of worry and rage. "You could have killed her! What the hell is wrong with you?" he seethes, his grip tightening around you, his heart thundering in his chest. As you lie there, unconscious in his arms, the realization hits Draco like a punch to the gut. His gaze remains fixed on your face, his fingers gently brushing a lock of hair away from your closed eyes. The usual sharp edges of his expression are replaced with raw worry and fear. "No, no, no," he mutters to himself, his voice unsteady. "Don't you dare! Wake up, damn it!" Draco's voice breaks as he speaks, his eyes fixed on you. "That hex was meant for me," he repeats, his words barely more than a whisper. The weight of what's happened hits him like a freight train, and his expression crumples, his usual haughty demeanor giving way to raw emotion. "Wake up, please," he whispers, his voice breaking. You can't leave me like this." Draco's voice is sharp and commanding as he addresses the students who have gathered around the scene. "Well, don't just stand there," he yells, his eyes narrowed. "Call the nurse. Now." His gaze darts back to you, his expression pinched with worry. He cradles you gently, his touch far more tender than usual. Draco gently pushes a strand of hair away from your face, his touch delicate and trembling slightly. The guilt weighs heavily on his shoulders, and his expression reflects it. "I'm sorry," he whispers, his voice thick with emotion. "I should have been the one to get hit, not you." Draco's gaze flicks up from you, searching for Harry. But it's too late. Harry's already vanished, leaving them alone in the hallway. Draco's jaw clenches in frustration, his nostrils flaring as he glares at the empty space where Harry was standing. Draco's tone softens as his gaze returns to your face, his eyes tracing your features, his expression a mix of worry and tenderness. "Everything will be okay, baby," he murmurs. His words a quiet reassurance to himself as much as to you. "You're gonna be all right." He tightens his hold on you, pulling you closer to his chest as he cradles you in his arms. "Just hold on," he whispers, his voice quavering slightly. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here." Draco's grip on you is tight as he strides quickly down the hallway, his heart pounding in his chest. He moves with a sense of panicked urgency, his face pale with worry. "Hold on, sweetheart," he mutters as he runs, his eyes darting down to your face every few seconds. "We're almost there, just hang on a little longer." Draco's steps are quick and purposeful, his gaze fixed dead ahead as he navigates through the throngs of students. The panicked expression on his face and the unconscious body in his arms are enough to make the students give way, clearing a path for Draco as he rushes through the halls. Draco bursts through the doors of the hospital wing, his heart pounding in his chest. He shouts frantically, his voice echoing through the room. "I need help," he cries out, his eyes darting around the room for a nurse or healer. "Please, someone, help!"
"Put her here," a nurse instructs urgently, gesturing to an open bed.
Draco obeys quickly, carefully carrying you over to the bed and gently laying you down. His hands tremble slightly as he lays you down, his gaze fixed on your face. "She's been hit by a hex," Draco explains urgently, his voice tight with worry. "I was about to get hit myself, but she jumped in front of me." His expression is a mix of guilt and concern, his eyes flickering between you and the nurse. He shifts his weight from foot to foot, clearly anxious as he waits for the nurse's response.
The nurse quickly checks your pulse, her expression serious as she works. "What was the hex that hit her?" she asks, her gaze flicking up to Draco for a moment before returning to her task.
"It was stupefy," Draco responds, his voice strained with worry. He runs a hand through his hair, pacing back and forth next to the bed as he watches the nurse work. Draco's words come out in a rush, his frustration and anger evident in his voice. "It was Potter," he explains, his jaw clenching as he mentions his rival's name. "He was going to hit me with the hex, but she..." He gestures towards you, his face twisted with guilt and concern.
Madame Pomfrey rushes into the room, her eyes wide with alarm. Her gaze flits between you and Draco, her healer instincts kicking in as she approaches the bedside. "What happened?" she asks, her voice steady despite the urgency of the situation.
"She was hit by a stupefy hex," the nurse reports. "It appears she lost consciousness immediately."
Madame Pomfrey's expression hardens at the news, her brow furrowing in concentration as she assesses your condition. She moves quickly, her hands darting to your body as she begins to cast diagnostic spells. Madame Pomfrey's wand shimmers and glows as she moves it over your body, performing a series of diagnostic spells to assess your condition. She closely studies the results, her expression growing more and more concerned as she interprets the magical readings.
Draco stands by the bedside, his gaze locked on your face as he watches Madame Pomfrey work. His heart pounds in his chest, his body trembling with worry. Sweat beads on his forehead, his hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. It's clear that witnessing you in this state is taking its toll on him, and his expression is a mixture of fear, sadness, and helplessness.
Madame Pomfrey presses 2 fingers gently against your neck, her touch feather-light and practiced. She closes her eyes, focusing on the rhythm of your heart pulsing under her fingers. After a moment, she withdraws her hand, satisfied with what she's felt. She then waves her wand over you, casting a spell to magically assess your heartbeat. The tip of her wand glows with a soft glowing light, and she studies the magical readings it provides. Madame Pomfrey murmurs to herself as she studies the results of her diagnostic spells, her expression growing more serious. Unconscious, shallow breathing, strong stunner, possibly overcharged, she says, her voice low and calculating.
Before Madame Pomfrey can speak, Draco interjects, his voice urgent and filled with worry. "It was Potter," he says, his tone sharp with anger. "He was aiming for me, but she jumped in front of me and took the hit."
Madame Pomfrey sighs sadly, her expression heavy as she processes the situation. She knows that the spell that hit you was cast with anger, and she realizes the gravity of the situation. "I'm going to cast a revival spell," she tells Draco. "Step back for a moment, please." Madame Pomfrey raises her wand, the tip emitting a soft golden light, and speaks firmly. "Renovate." The light envelops you, crackling softly as it seeps into your body. Everyone in the room holds their breath, waiting anxiously to see if the spell will take effect. Nothing happens, and your eyes remain closed, your body still unresponsive and unconscious on the bed. Madame Pomfrey's expression hardens, her eyes narrowing as she concentrates. "It didn't work," she mutters, frustration creeping into her voice. She adjusts her grip on her wand, preparing to cast the spell again. "I'll try it again," she says, a hint of determination in her voice. Raising her wand, she casts the spell once more. "Renovate." This time, the glow of the spell is stronger, but still nothing happens. You remain unconscious, you're unresponsive to the magical energy enveloping you. Panicking, Madame Pomfrey rushes to the hospital wing cabinets and pulls out a glowing bottle. It's filled with what appears to be pepper-up potion. She quickly returns to your bedside and pours a spoonful of the potion into your mouth. "Please, please work," she mutters, her voice filled with desperation. Everyone in the room holds their breath, watching closely as your body slowly stirs and your eyes twitch slightly. Madame Pomfrey's heart beats wildly in her chest, her gaze locked on your face as she prays silently for the healing potion to take effect. Madame Pomfrey holds your hand gently, a small smile tugging at the corner of her lips as she sees the signs of consciousness returning to your form. She turns to Draco, her expression tired but relieved. "She's stable for now," she says, her tone authoritative but gentle. "But you'll have to be quiet and let her rest. She needs time to recover."
Draco approaches you, his steps slow and careful. He glances up at Madame Pomfrey, silently asking permission to touch you. Seeing her nod, he gently takes your hand in his, holding it with a tender grip.
The nurses move away from the bedside, heading towards Professor Dumbledore and Professor Snape, who have just arrived. The 2 professors exchange glances, their faces etched with concern and worry. They engage in a hushed conversation with the nurses, their eyes often darting towards you, your unconscious form on the bed.
Draco's gaze drifts towards Dumbledore and Snape for a moment, but his focus quickly returns to you. He looks down at you, his grip on your hand tightening slightly. He speaks softly, his voice tender and reassuring. "It's okay," he whispers, his words full of care. "You're safe now. You're safe with me." Draco squeezes your hand gently, his gaze fixed on your face as he speaks. His tone is soft but firm, filled with unspoken emotions. Rest, he whispers, his voice gentle but commanding. I'll be right here when you wake up, my darling. Draco's expression falters momentarily, his eyes reflecting the fear and worry he felt when you were hit. He takes a deep breath, steadying himself before speaking again. You scared me, he says softly, his voice filled with raw emotion. I really thought I lost you. Draco gently leans down, placing a tender kiss on your forehead. His touch is soft, his expression full of love and concern. I love you, he whispers, his voice cracking slightly with emotion. Please heal up fast, my love. Draco slowly withdraws his hand from yours, his gaze lingering on your face for a moment before he turns and walks towards Dumbledore and Snape. His steps are slow, his expression a mixture of concern and annoyance, as if he's reluctant to leave your side but knows he must speak to the professors.
Dumbledore gazes at Draco with a solemn, measured expression on his face. His eyes flicker towards you momentarily before returning to Draco. His voice is low and measured, his words chosen carefully. Mr. Malfoy, he begins, his tone neutral. You and I must speak.
Draco's shoulders tense, his expression hardening as he responds, his words sharp and annoyed. It was Potter, he repeats firmly, his gaze fixed on Dumbledore. You should be speaking to him, not me.
Severus Snape interjects, his tone firm and reassuring. Potter will be punished, he affirms, his gaze fixed on Draco. We have already taken steps to ensure that he will be held accountable for his actions.
Draco's expression hardens, his anger barely concealed. He seems slightly mollified by Snape's reassurance, but he still seethes with anger. He should be expelled, he mutters, his voice tight with fury. He could have killed her.
Dumbledore raises a hand, his expression solemn. Potter will be dealt with accordingly, according to the school's rules and regulations.
Draco's annoyance flares, his jaw clenching as he responds, his voice sharp and frustrated. And what if your rules are not enough? He snaps, his eyes narrowing. What if he does this again? What then? Draco's frustration and anger boil over, his voice rising to a shout as he repeats himself. It was meant for me, he snaps, his eyes wide with emotion. I should have been hit. It should have been me lying there, not her.
Snape's expression remains stoic, but his tone is firm and reassuring. I will handle it myself, he says firmly, his gaze locking with Draco's. Potter will be dealt with properly. You have my word.
If you don't, then I will, he replies, his voice strong and unyielding. Draco strides away from Dumbledore and Snape, his steps measured and purposeful. His mind is still churning with anger, but he forces his focus onto you, his attention solely on Madame Pomfrey, who's observing your vitals. As he approaches her, his expression is a mix of concern and urgency. He swallows hard, his eyes flickering towards you before speaking up. How is she?
She's stable, but she's not out of the woods yet. She needs time to rest and heal. She may not wake up for days, she says, her expression solemn. It's not a coma, but a deep healing sleep. She's alive and well, I promise you that much.
Draco's expression falters for a moment as he processes her words. The reality of the situation weighs heavily on him, evident in the way his shoulders sag slightly. He takes a deep breath, his eyes flickering towards you once more. Days, he echoes, his voice low and heavy with worry. He runs a hand through his hair, his expression a mix of worry and helplessness.
Her body needs time to heal both physically and magically.
Draco's jaw tightens, his gaze flicking back to you, his eyes studying your unconscious form. The reality is sinking in, the weight of your long recovery weighing heavy on his heart. What can I do? He asks, his voice tinged with helplessness.
You should get some rest, she instructs, her words tinged with concern. You're welcome to stay here for the night, she says, her expression kind, but you should rest a bit and come back tonight to check on her.
Draco takes a deep breath, his expression genuinely thankful as he turns to Madame Pomfrey. Thank you, he whispers, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you for saving her. Draco places a gentle kiss on your forehead, his touch gentle, his words murmured softly into your ear. Sweet dreams, my baby. I love you. I'll be back tonight, he whispers, his voice a mix of reassurance and determination. After I've dealt with Potter. Draco strolls through the hallway, his arms filled with treasures for you. He carefully cradles a bouquet of freshly picked flowers, their petals vibrant and fragrant. In the other hand, he holds a small pillow, its soft fabric, perfect for comfort and support. A small blanket, neatly folded and warm, hangs over his arm, and in his other hand is a book, its pages brimming with stories for him to read to you. Draco walked through the halls in his black pajamas, disregarding any stares or whispers that might come his way. The night was closing in, and the castle was beginning to grow quiet. The halls were illuminated by the flickering light of the torches on the walls, their glow casting dancing shadows on the stone walls. It was clear Draco didn't care about what others thought. He was solely focused on you. Draco comes to a halt, his expression hardening at the sight of Tom.
Tom observes with a sly smile, his sharp gaze flickering between the items Draco carries. Usually students are heading towards their chambers at this time of night, he muses, his voice soft and calculated. But it seems you're heading in the opposite direction. What could you possibly be up to, Malfoy?
I'm heading to the hospital, he states, his voice firm and measured, after what Potter did, putting her into a sleep-like coma.
Tom's eyes widen slightly, his composure faltering for a moment as he processes Draco's words. Potter did that, he asks, his voice betraying a hint of surprise.
Draco nods solemnly, his expression hardening. He did, he confirms, his voice firm. He hit her with a stunning spell, and she's been unconscious ever since.
Tom's expression is serious, his eyes fixed on Draco. Have the teachers done anything about it? He queries, his tone calculated.
They've only given him a warning, he replies, his voice bitter, which is a load of bullshit.
And what do you feel is a suitable punishment for Potter? Tom queries, a hint of curiosity in his eyes.
Draco's expression hardens as he responds without hesitation. Expulsion, he states firmly, his voice leaving no room for doubt.
Tom's smile grows slightly, enjoying Draco's answer. Expulsion, That is quite extreme, don't you think? He inquires, his tone almost amused.
Extreme, perhaps, Draco retorts, his jaw clenching. But he deserves something more than a mere warning.
Tom's gaze drifts towards the items in Draco's arms, a hint of curiosity in his eyes. Don't tell me you're going to sleep in the hospital wing, he inquires, an edge of mockery lacing his tone.
Draco raises an eyebrow, his expression defiant. And what's wrong with sleeping in the hospital wing? He retorts, his voice tinged with a hint of challenge.
Tom shakes his head disapprovingly, his tone strict. It isn't allowed, he informs Draco, his gaze fixed on him. You are aware of the rules, aren't you?
I am, Draco responds, his voice unwavering. But I don't care about the rules. I'm staying with her.
Tom's expression changes to surprise before his expression hardens. You're going to stay with her the whole night?
Draco nods, determination etched on his face. Yes, he affirms firmly. I'm not leaving her side.
Tom's face turns cold and his expression sharpens. And what makes you think Madame Pomfrey will allow it?
Draco stands straighter, his gaze steady. I don't need her permission, he retorts. I'm staying with her, regardless of what anyone says. Draco's expression is set, his voice unyielding. I'll be on my way now, he states firmly, his gaze flickering towards the hallway that leads to the hospital wing.
Draco, he calls out, his voice sharp. Tom's expression softens slightly as he gives Draco a nod. I hope she wakes up soon, he says, his voice gentler. Take good care of her.
Draco simply nods in response, his expression guarded. He remains still for a moment longer, then turns and continues on his way towards the hospital wing. Draco pushes open the doors to the hospital wing and steps inside, his steps growing slower and more gentle as he approaches your bedside. The soft, ambient light of the room creates a warm, soothing atmosphere that wraps around him like a comforting blanket. He places the bouquet of flowers he brought down on a nearby bedside table, setting the pillow and blanket down on a nearby chair. He then moves closer to you, his gaze fixed on your face as he gently sits on the edge of the bed. He hesitates for a moment, his hand hovering above your face, before he gently brushes a strand of hair away from your forehead. The touch is tender and filled with concern as he takes in your unconscious form. His expression is a mix of worry and affection, his fingers lingering on your skin as though trying to memorize the feel of it.
Madame Pomfrey approaches Draco, her expression a mix of sympathy and concern. She observes him for a moment before speaking. "You're staying the night, I presume?" she inquires, her voice soft.
Draco nods silently, not taking his gaze away from you. "I'm not leaving her side," he says quietly, his voice filled with determination.
Madame Pomfrey chuckles softly, a small smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "I see how much you care for her," she observes, her tone warm with approval. "You're a good man, Draco."
Softens, his eyes flickering up to meet Madame Pomfrey's. I care too much for her," he admits quietly, his voice filled with raw emotion. "I can't bear to see her like this."
Madame Pomfrey nods in understanding, her expression sympathetic. "It's hard, I know," she murmurs, "but she'll be all right. She's strong, your girl."
Draco nods, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "I know she's strong," he affirms, a hint of pride in his voice. "But it's hard not to worry, especially after what Potter did."
Madame Pomfrey's expression hardens slightly, her voice firm. "Potter will be held accountable for his actions," she assures him strongly. "Don't you worry about that."
Draco nods, a mixture of anger and determination in his eyes. "I hope so," he grumbles, his jaw clenching. "He needs to be punished severely."
Madame Pomfrey pats Draco's shoulder gently, her expression reassuring. "She just needs to rest for the night," she says, her voice gentle. "If you need any assistance, just call for a nurse in the other room."
Draco nods in acknowledgement, his gaze flickering back to you. "I'll be fine," he replies, his voice soft. I just want to be here with her."
Madame Pomfrey smiles gently and pats Draco's shoulder once more. "Good night," she murmurs softly, her hand lingering on his shoulder for a moment before she slowly walks away, her footsteps growing quieter in the distance.
With Madame Pomfrey gone, Draco is left alone with you in the quietness of the room. The soft glow of the nearby lamp casts a warm, muted light that dances across your face. He takes a moment to simply observe you, his eyes roaming over your features as if etching them permanently into his memory. Draco gently arranges the bouquet of flowers in a nearby vase, his hands moving with a gentle, tender touch. As he works, he softly speaks, his words carrying a mix of affection and concern. "Hi, beautiful," he murmurs, his voice soft and intimate. "I picked some fresh flowers for you, your favorite." His eyes flicker back to the bouquet, his expression softening as he admires the flower's vibrant colors. He gently adjusts the petals, making sure each flower is perfectly placed. Draco turns away from the flowers, his gaze shifting towards you. He studies your sleeping face, his expression tender and filled with affection. He takes in every detail, the way your eyelashes fan out against your cheeks, the slight part of your lips, and the steady rise and fall of your chest. Draco murmurs softly as he surveys your sleeping form, a protective instinct rising within him. "You must be cold," he whispers, his concern evident as he gently tucks the blanket in around you, making sure you're covered snugly and comfortable. His touch is gentle, his fingertips grazing your skin lightly as he meticulously tucks the edges of the blanket around you. Draco reaches out, his hand gently enclosing around yours. His touch is light, tender as he takes your hand in his. His fingers lightly brush across your knuckles, tracing the lines of your hand, as if trying to memorize every contour and curve. He holds your hand gently, his grip firm yet tender, as he silently prays that you wake up soon. Draco leans in slightly, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're gonna be okay, my love," he murmurs, his words carrying a gentle certainty. "You'll wake up soon, and everything will be all right." His thumb gently rubs the back of your hand, his touch tender and reassuring, as if he's trying to infuse his strength and optimism into you through the touch alone. Draco gently brushes away a stray strand of hair that has fallen across your face, his touch light as a feather. His gaze softens as he gazes at your face, his fingers lingering for a moment, as if reluctant to let go. He takes a deep breath, his hand still holding yours, as he continues to watch you in silence. The only sound in the room is the steady ticking of the clock on the wall and the soft, even cadence of your breathing. Draco closes his eyes, taking in the quietness of the room. The only sound is the soft, steady rhythm of your breathing, and it's strangely comforting. He lets himself savor the moment, the peace and solitude of being with you, and allows himself to relax, if only for a brief moment. He gently squeezes your hand in his, the gesture gentle and reassuring. Despite the worry and anger that still linger in his mind, he finds solace in the simple act of being close to you, of feeling your hand in his, and it helps to calm his racing thoughts. Draco lets out a soft yawn, the exhaustion of the day finally catching up with him. Despite his determination to stay awake, his eyes are heavy, and his body seems to crave rest. He fights against the exhaustion, his gaze shifting back to your sleeping form, as if drawing strength from your presence. Draco's gaze drifts towards the window, his attention caught by the sound of rain falling outside. The raindrops patter softly against the glass, creating a soothing rhythm that fills the room. He watches the rain for a moment, his expression softening slightly. Draco yawns once more, his drowsiness becoming harder to ignore. The warm, dimly lit room, combined with the soothing sound of the rain, is making it increasingly difficult for him to keep his eyes open. Draco grabs the pillow and blanket he had set aside and carefully lays them on the space next to you on the bed. He moves slowly, trying not to disturb you as he settles himself beside you. The bed creaks softly under his weight, and he adjusts the pillow and blanket, making sure he's comfortable. With a wave of his wand, Draco extinguishes the light, plunging the room into darkness. The only source of light now comes from the faint glow of the lanterns outside, filtering in through the window. The room is bathed in a soft, silvery illumination, just enough for him to see your sleeping form next to him. Draco gently moves closer to you, his movements cautious and careful, not wanting to disturb you. He settles in next to you, his body cradling you gently, his arm wrapping around your waist, pulling you close to him. The rain continues to fall heavily outside, the sound of it hitting the window creating a soft, comforting rhythm. Draco nuzzles his face into the crook of your neck, inhaling deeply. He closes his eyes, breathing in your scent, relishing in your closeness. He presses a soft, fleeting kiss on the spot where your neck meets your collarbone, his lips barely grazing your skin. Draco mutters sweet words softly, his voice thick with emotion. "You're so beautiful," he whispers, his words a gentle caress. "So brave and strong." He presses another kiss to your neck, his arms tightening around you, as if trying to draw you closer, hold you tight. "I don't know what I'd do if I lost you," he murmurs, his voice tinged with a hint of vulnerability. His hand gently rubs your back, his touch tender as he continues to murmur sweet words, his emotions pouring through him. "You mean everything to me," he whispers, his voice raw with sincerity. "I'd be lost without you." "I love you more than anything in this world," he murmurs. His words are heartfelt confession. "You are my world, my everything." As he holds you close, Draco silently prays for your recovery. "Please," he whispers, the word barely audible. "Please, get better soon." He holds you tighter, his grip almost possessive, as if trying to hold on to you with every fibre of his being. "I need you," he murmurs, his voice filled with a mix of desperation and longing. "I can't lose you." "I'll do anything to get you back," he whispers, his words raw and honest. "Just wake up, please." With one last gentle kiss to your neck, Draco closes his eyes, his exhaustion finally overcoming him. His body relaxes against yours, his breathing becoming slow, and even as he drifts off to sleep, still holding you tightly in his arms. The rain continues to fall peacefully, the rhythmic sound of the droplets against the window lulling Draco into a deep, contented slumber. Under the blanket, he snuggles further into you, his body pressed closely against yours, seeking comfort and warmth. His arm remains wrapped around your waist, his hand splayed protectively on your hip, even in his sleep. His face is turned towards you, and his breath brushes gently against your skin as he sleeps peacefully next to you. His arms hold you close, his grip unconsciously tightening ever so slightly in his sleep, as if even in slumber he's afraid to let you go. Throughout the day, Draco attended his classes, his thoughts constantly drifting back to you. The hours seemed to drag on excruciatingly slowly as he waited impatiently to finish his classes for the day. The moment his classes ended, he would immediately make his way to the hospital wing, eager to see you again. He would spend his evenings by your side, sitting quietly by your bedside and holding your hand, watching you rest. He would often bring homework with him, but he struggled to focus on it, his thoughts always returning to you and your condition. That day, Draco's Transfiguration class had gone longer than usual. Professor McGonagall had kept the class after the bell to review a particularly difficult spell, and Draco had found himself stuck there, growing increasingly impatient. He fidgeted in his seat, tapping his quill against the desk and stealing glances at the clock, willing the hands to move faster so he could finally leave and rush to your bedside.
Little did Draco know that while he was stuck in class, Harry Potter had managed to slip away unnoticed and was making his way towards the hospital wing. Harry had his own reasons for wanting to visit you, but he also knew the last thing he wanted was to come face to face with Draco. Harry's actions had not gone unnoticed by the school's authorities. Both Dumbledore and Professor Snape had been quick to hold him accountable for his recklessness. They had sternly reprimanded him, lecturing him on the dangers and consequences of his actions. Harry had been forced to endure a verbal lashing from both of them, with Snape's scolding, in particular, being exceptionally harsh. Harry felt a deep sense of guilt over the incident. He never intended to cause you any harm, and the fact that you were now lying unconscious in the hospital wing was a painful reminder of the consequences of his actions. Every time he remembered the moment when the spell had struck you, he was overcome with a wave of remorse and self-recrimination. As Harry entered the hospital wing, he took in the familiar surroundings, the quiet and the muted light adding to the somber atmosphere. His gaze immediately fell upon your prone form, lying in the bed, the image stirring an array of emotions within him. Guilt and remorse tugged at his heart, and he felt a pang of regret and sadness, seeing you in such a vulnerable state.
Humphrey, spotting Harry, approached him with a mixture of concern and curiosity in her expression. "Mr. Potter," she greeted him with a nod, her voice betraying a hint of sternness. "What brings you here at this hour?"
Harry straightened, clearing his throat nervously. "I wanted to come and see her," he replied, his voice soft and tinged with guilt.
Humphrey gave a slight nod, her expression softening slightly. "She's still in a deep sleep, just like she has been for days now," she informed him, her tone gentle but stern. "She's stable, but there's still no sign of her waking up."
Harry swallowed the lump in his throat, nodding slowly in understanding. Can I sit with her for a while?" he asked, his voice tinged with a mixture of hope and hesitation.
Humphrey studied Harry for a moment, seeing the genuine contrition in his face. She knew Draco would be upset if he found out, but Harry's expression convinced her that he wanted to make amends. "You can sit with her for a while," she finally relented, her tone weary but compassionate. "But remember, she needs peace and rest right now."
"Of course," Harry assured her earnestly. "I understand. I won't disturb her. I just want to be near her for a bit."
Humphrey nodded, a hint of understanding in her gaze. "All right," she said, gesturing towards the chair by your bedside. "You can sit there."
Harry offered her a grateful nod, before moving over to the chair next to your bedside. He gingerly took a seat, his gaze flickering over your still form on the bed. His heart swelled with guilt and remorse as he looked at you, and he felt a strong urge to reach out and take your hand, but he resisted. He was acutely aware of the fragile state you were in, and he didn't want to risk causing any disturbance or discomfort. Harry leaned in slightly, his voice dropping to a soft whisper. "I'm so sorry," he murmured, his voice filled with sincerity. "I never meant to hurt you. It was an accident, a stupid, careless mistake." He took a shaky breath, his eyes fixed on your face, the guilt etched deeply into his features. "I wish I could take it back," he continued, his voice cracking slightly. "I'd do anything to reverse it. You don't deserve this. None of this is fair. He reached out, his hand hovering just above yours, as if wanting to touch you, to somehow convey his apologies through physical contact. But he stopped himself, his hand dropping back into his lap. I hope you don't hate me, he murmured, his voice laced with a mixture of hope and despair. I never wanted any of this to happen. Harry let out a heavy sigh, his frustration and self-loathing bubbling to the surface. He slumped slightly in his seat, his face buried in his hands as he tried to steady his breathing. The guilt and regret weighed heavily on his shoulders, and he felt a deep sense of helplessness. He longed to turn back the clock, to somehow undo the mistakes that had led to this moment, but he knew that was impossible. Damn it, he muttered under his breath. Why did I have to be so stupid? After a moment of hesitation, Harry carefully extended his hand, reaching out towards yours. His fingers trembled slightly as he finally made contact, gently intertwining them with yours. His touch was careful and cautious, as if he was afraid of causing you any further harm. He let his thumb trace tiny, gentle circles on the back of your hand, his eyes fixated on your face, searching for any sign of a reaction. Harry stayed seated by your bedside, his hand holding yours as he absorbed the silence that enveloped the room. He simply sat there, his gaze flickering between you and your intertwined hands. He observed your peaceful expression, a stark contrast to his own troubled thoughts. The weight of his guilt and remorse pressed heavily upon him, and he silently wished for a miracle, for you to wake up and forgive him. After a few more minutes had passed, Harry reluctantly decided it was time for him to leave. Reluctantly, he pulled his hand gently from yours, his fingers lingering on your skin for a moment before letting go completely. He stood up from the chair, his movements slow and heavy. His eyes traveled over your face one last time, his chest tight with a mix of guilt and sorrow. I have to go, he murmured softly, his voice quiet but heavy with remorse. But I'll come back, I promise. Without another word, he turned away, his shoulders slumped, and slowly headed towards the door of the hospital wing. He cast one last glance over his shoulder at you, his heart heavy with regret, before slipping out of the room, the door softly closing behind him. Harry froze in his tracks, his heart skipping a beat as he spotted Draco just outside the hospital wing doors. He tensed instantly, his body going rigid as their eyes met. The air between them felt suddenly heavy, charged with a mixture of guilt, regret, and unspoken tension. The last thing Harry wanted was to confront Draco right now, especially given the circumstances.
Draco's gaze locked onto Harry, his expression a potent mix of anger, hurt, and frustration. His jaw set firmly, his eyes narrowing as he took in the sight of Harry in front of him. "What the hell are you doing here?" he hissed, his words laced with barely contained anger.
Harry swallowed hard, the words catching in his throat. He knew exactly what this looked like. Draco finding him exiting the hospital wing, and he could practically feel the anger rolling off of him in waves. I was just... He stumbled over his words, his voice faltering under Draco's dark gaze. I came to see her.
Draco's eyes darkened further at Harry's words, his anger quickly intensifying. He took a step closer, his body tensed, as he practically growled out his next words. "To see her?" he echoed, his voice dripping with bitter suspicion. "You have no business being anywhere near her." Protectiveness. "You've caused enough harm already," he retorted, his voice sharp with accusation. "You think you have the right to come here after what you did to her? She's lying there, unconscious, because of you."
Harry's words tumbled out as he desperately tried to explain and apologize, his voice tinged with guilt and remorse. I know I messed up," he rushed, his hands clenched into fists. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was an accident. I never would have hurt her on purpose. Please, he pleaded, his voice cracking with emotion. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I did. I never wanted any of this. I would take it all back if I could. I need you to believe me. I'm sorry.
Draco's eyes blazed with anger and hurt as he stepped closer to Harry, his words coming out as a sharp accusation. Yeah, I remember, he spat, the words cutting through the air as he remembered that fateful day. You wanted to hurt me, and she took the hit for me. And look at her, lying there, unconscious because of your recklessness. You think you're the only one who cares about her, who wants her to be safe. You think you're the only one who's hurting. Draco's voice rose, the pain and protectiveness taking over as he nearly yelled the words, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. She's my girlfriend, he exclaimed, his voice sharp with conviction. She sacrificed herself for me, and now she's lying there fighting for her life because of a stupid, thoughtless mistake you made. You don't have the right to say these things. You don't have any idea what she means to me. Draco lost control of his emotions, the anger and hurt reaching a boiling point. In a sudden burst of frustration, he grabbed Harry by the shirt, roughly shoving him against the door. His hand clenched around the fabric tightly, his fingers trembling with the force of his grip. You have no idea what I feel for her, he hissed, his face mere inches from Harry's. You have no idea the fear and worry and agony I've been going through, watching her lie there motionless, not knowing if she'll ever wake up again. You have no idea.
Harry's eyes widened, fear creeping into his expression as he felt Draco's grip on his shirt tighten. He'd never seen him like this before. So angry, so volatile. There was something almost unhinged in his gaze, and Harry found himself feeling genuinely frightened by this side of Draco. He tried to keep his voice steady as he spoke, his words coming out in a shaky whisper. Draco, please. I'm sorry for what I did.
The sound of the door opening caused both Draco and Harry to freeze, their attention suddenly shifting to Pomfrey as she stepped through the door. She took in the scene before her, Draco with his hand clenched in Harry's shirt, the tension thick in the air between them, and her expression hardened. What's going on here? She demanded firmly, her eyes flickering between the two boys.
Draco's grip on Harry's shirt loosened momentarily as he addressed Pomfrey, his voice strained and tense. We're just having a talk, he forced out, his tone not entirely convincing. He didn't release his hold on Harry just yet, his eyes flickering with warning.
Pomfrey sighed, her expression stern but weary. She looked between the two boys, her tone firm yet tinged with exhaustion. Not here, she said firmly. Take your talk elsewhere. You're causing a disturbance, and frankly, you're upsetting my patience.
Unaware of the conversation and tension unfolding just outside your room, you shifted slightly on your bed, a soft groan escaping your lips as you twisted slightly on the sheets. The sound caught Draco's attention instantly, and he froze, his eyes immediately fixing on your form as he noticed the movement. Draco's heart clenched, his breath catching in his chest as he saw your body twitch slightly, your eyelids fluttering as you started to show signs of slowly waking up. It was a sight he had been waiting for, desperately hoping for, and now here you were, showing the first signs of regaining consciousness. Draco let go of Harry, his attention fully focused on you as he quickly made his way to your bedside. All thoughts of his altercation with Harry vanished from his mind as he knelt beside your bed, his eyes fixed intently on your face, watching for any further signs of wakefulness. Draco's eyes widened as he saw you slowly open your eyes, a wave of intense relief washing over him. He couldn't believe it. You were waking up. After all this time, you were awake. You're awake, he whispered, his voice catching in his throat as he reached out, gently grasping your hand in his touch trembling with hope.
Madame Pomfrey and Harry both rushed over as soon as they noticed your eyes open. Pomfrey immediately started checking your vital signs, her hand taking your pulse while her eyes searched your face and your condition. "Can you hear me?" she asked gently, her voice full of cautious optimism. "Can you speak?"
Draco's heart leapt at the sound of your soft whisper, his grip on your hand tightening reflexively. Your voice was weak but audible, and he couldn't help the small, hopeful smile that tugged at the corners of his mouth.
Madame Pomfrey and Harry breathed a collective sigh of relief, the tension in the room visibly easing as they heard your response. Pomfrey leaned in slightly, her voice gentle. "How do you feel?" she inquired softly.
Draco's heart skipped a beat as he heard your words, and a wave of overwhelming relief washed over him. You looked at him, your smile weak but warm, and your expression said it all. His eyes softened, his grip on your hand growing even tighter as he leaned in closer. "I'm so happy to see you awake," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You have no idea how much I've missed you."
Pomfrey finished adjusting the pillows and took a step back, taking in your appearance as you sat up in bed. She then turned to you with a slight smile, her voice professional yet gentle. "Once you're feeling better and have shown some grace in recovery, we can consider releasing you back to your dormitories." Her gaze flicked to Draco, a hint of understanding in her eyes, as if recognizing the special connection between the two of you.
Draco leaned in, his expression serious as he pressed a tender kiss to your hand. "I'm going to get you out of here soon," he murmured, his gaze locking with yours intently. "I promise." His grip on your hand tightened ever so slightly, his determination evident in the set of his jaw. He wanted nothing more than to take you away from this place, to take care of you and protect you from any further harm. The next day rolled around, and with Pomfrey's approval, you were finally released from the hospital wing. Draco was there to escort you back to Slytherin dorm room, his hand lightly resting on the small of your back as he guided you through the halls. When you finally reached the door of the dorm room, Draco paused, his gaze flickering down to you. "Ready?" he asked quietly. Draco gave you a reassuring smile and gently opened the door to the dorm room. He ushered you inside, his hand still resting protectively on the small of your back. The dorm room was quiet and dimly lit, the soft glow of the lamps casting a warm light over the familiar surroundings. There was an air of tranquility in the room, as if the space had been waiting silently for your return. As you stepped into the room, your eyes widened in surprise as you took in the space. Draco had been busy, and he'd made sure the room was spotless. The bed was neatly made, the comforter pulled tight, and the pillows fluffed just so. The surfaces were dust-free, and the air held a faint scent of lemon polish. But it was the sight of the dinner waiting on the small table that truly caught your attention. It was a simple but lovingly prepared meal, the food still steaming and ready for the two of you to enjoy. Draco smiled at your shocked expression, a hint of satisfaction in his eyes. He nodded, a chuckle escaping his lips. "I did," he confirmed, his tone warm and filled with affection. "I wanted to make sure everything was perfect for you, especially after everything." He gently guided you towards the table, pulling out a chair for you to sit. Draco shook his head, his expression gentle but firm. "I wanted to," he repeated, taking a seat across from you. "You shouldn't have to worry about anything right now. You need to focus on resting and getting better." He reached out, gently taking your hand in his thumb gently rubbing soothing circles on your skin. "Just let me take care of you, all right?" You offered him a soft smile in return, a flood of gratitude and affection washing over you. Then, your gaze drifted down to the dinner laid out before you, a simple yet well-prepared meal. Draco had gone all out, even placing a small vase with a single, elegant white rose in the center of the table. He watched you closely as you took in the scene, waiting for your reaction. Draco's lips curved into a smile as you whispered your appreciation of the meal. He had indeed remembered to make your favorite, spaghetti and meatballs. "Yeah," he said softly, his hand giving your hand a gentle squeeze. I remembered. Figured you'd probably be craving some comfort food after everything. Draco's heart swelled with tenderness as you thanked him, your voice betraying your appreciation for his efforts. Hearing you call him my baby was like music to his ears. Of course, my darling, he replied gently, his thumb gently caressing the back of your hand. You mean the world to me. I just wanted to make sure you were comfortable. He watched you closely as you began to dig into the meal, his eyes flickering over your features, taking in every little detail. He knew how much you loved this meal, and he found himself feeling unexpectedly pleased, his heart swelling with a simple sort of joy. Is it still as good as you remember? He asked softly, referring to the spaghetti and meatballs. Draco's smile widened at your words, his heart warming at your satisfied tone. He watched as you took another bite of the meal, his eyes studying your face, watching the way your expression lit up with happiness and contentment. Good. That's all I wanted, he murmured, his hand still holding yours across the table. As long as you're enjoying it, I'm happy. Outside, the rain continued to fall softly, its gentle patter creating a soothing background to the comfortable atmosphere in the room. The candles cast a warm, soft light that danced across the space, adding to the intimate mood. Both of you smiled as you continued to enjoy the meal, the simple pleasure of being together adding a sense of peace and rightness to the moment. Draco kept stealing glances at you, his gaze softening each time his eyes rested on your face. Draco was quiet for a moment, studying you carefully as you ate your dinner. He had a question he wanted to ask, but he was hesitant, unsure if it was the right time to bring it up. Finally, he drew in a deep breath, his gaze fixed on you. Hey, can I ask you something? He said softly, a hint of hesitations in his voice. Draco took a moment to gather his thoughts, his expression a mix of worry and curiosity. I was just wondering, he began tentatively, his hand still holding onto yours across the table. You said you don't remember anything, right? From when? He trailed off, struggling to form the words, his gaze flicking away for a moment before returning to you. Draco's eyebrows furrowed as he listened to your words. The fact that you had no memory of what happened after walking to meet him that day was concerning, especially considering the severity of the situation. His grip on your hand tightened slightly as he leaned forward, a look of concern etched into his features, and nothing in between, no flashes or anything. He pressed gently, his tone laced with worry. Draco couldn't help the subtle pang of sadness that gripped him as you shook your head, confirming that you had no memory of anything after the moment you approached him. Part of him had hoped that maybe you'd remember something, even just a glimpse of what had happened, but the realization that you had blissfully remained unaware of the pain and trauma you had spared only deepened his gratitude. At least you hadn't had to experience the agony of being struck by that spell. I'm glad, he murmured softly, his gaze softening as he looked at you. Draco's expression softened even further as you mentioned Madame Pomfrey's words. He had indeed visited you every day while you were in the hospital wing, spending countless hours by your bedside, anxiously waiting for you to wake up. He nodded in acknowledgement, his thumb gently tracing over your knuckles. Yeah, I did, he confirmed, a trace of sorrow in his eyes. I didn't want to leave your side. I wanted to be there when you woke up. Draco's gaze flickered with vulnerability as you asked him if he had missed you. A soft smile tugged at the corner of his lips, his hand giving yours another gentle squeeze. Of course, I missed you like hell, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. I was going crazy without you. Every moment felt endless, every second felt like an eternity. I needed to know you were going to be okay. Draco watched you rise from your seat, a flutter of surprise passing over his features. He slowly stood up as well, his eyes searching yours, trying to gauge your intentions. He watched as you rounded the table towards him, his heart thudding against his ribs, uncertain of what you were about to do. Draco's breath hitched in his chest as you wrapped your arms around him, pulling him into a tight embrace. For a moment he just froze, his body stiffening in surprise at the sudden action. But then his arms slowly came up to surround you, pulling you closer against him. He buried his face in your shoulder, holding onto you tightly, as if afraid that if he let go, you might disappear again. The two of you remained in that embrace, wrapped tightly in each other's arms. The world around them faded away, leaving only the warm comfort of each other's presence. Draco's eyes closed as he held onto you, his nose pressed against your neck, inhaling the familiar scent of you. It was a moment of pure relief, a silent reassurance that you were truly here, alive and well in his arms. Finally, he reluctantly loosened his grip slightly, his voice a low, soft murmur. "I missed you so damn much." Slowly, Draco pulled back, just enough to be able to meet your gaze. His hands came up to cup your face, his thumbs gently caressing your cheeks. His eyes flicked over your features, as if rememorizing every little detail. And then, seemingly unable to resist the urge, he leaned in and gently kissed you. It was a soft, gentle touch of his lips against yours, filled with all the longing, relief and love he'd felt during those days you'd been unconscious. The instant you kissed him back, Draco's restraint snapped. His arms wrapped tightly around your waist, pulling you closer as he deepened the kiss. The pent-up desire and desperation rose within him as he kissed you back with fervor. His mouth moved against yours hungrily, his tongue tracing the seam of your lips, seeking entry. His body pressed against you, craving the feel of you against him, needing to affirm that you were really here. Draco allowed himself to be guided backwards, his knees feeling weak as you pushed him towards the bed. He stumbled slightly, his hands still grasping at your body, not wanting to break away for even a moment. He felt the edge of the bed against the back of his legs and let you gently push him down onto the mattress, sprawling him on the bed beneath you. His heart pounded in his chest, his grey eyes darkened with desire and need as he looked up at you, breathless and waiting for your next move. As you came down on top of him, Draco tried to gather his thoughts, his body already reacting to your closeness. He could feel the heat of your body against his, the weight of you on top of him, and it took all his willpower not to just pull you down and give in to the desires swirling within him. But he forced himself to remember your recent condition, his voice hoarse with need, yet also filled with concern. "Darling, you should rest," he murmured, his hand moving to your hips, his thumbs tracing circles on your skin, almost involuntarily. Draco's breath hitched as you murmured those words. The soft, needy tone of your voice sent a wave of heat through his body, his fingers unconsciously digging slightly into your skin. He groaned softly, fighting the urge to just give in to what his body was craving. "I know, darling, I've missed you too, so goddamn much," he confessed, his voice low and strained. "But you need to rest. You need to take it easy, you're still recovering." With a swift, fluid motion, Draco rolled you over, swapping your positions. Now he was above you, his body hovering over yours, his arms bracing himself on either side of you, effectively pinning you under him. His chest was heaving with shallow breaths, his gaze locked with yours, his expression a mix of hunger and restraint. He could feel the heat radiating off your body, the undeniable pull between you, but he held himself back, trying to keep his control. Draco's restraint crumbled as he looked down at you, his body slowly lowering so that he was laying on top of you. He leaned down, his weight pressing against you, and captured your mouth in a gentle kiss. His lips moved against yours in a slow, languid motion, his tongue gently seeking entrance. His fingers tangled in your hair, holding you close, as if afraid you'd vanish at any moment. Draco groaned softly against your mouth as you tugged on his necklace. The gentle gesture only added to the growing desire within him, his body automatically shifting against yours, his hips instinctively pressing against you. He pulled back from the kiss, his gaze darkened with need, his breathing ragged. "Darling," he murmured, his voice low and rough. "Be careful, I'm trying to be gentle here." Reluctantly, Draco pulled away slightly, shifting to sit up on the bed. His body protested the loss of your touch, but he pushed aside his own desires, focused on your well-being. Tucking a strand of hair behind your ear. "You need to rest," he repeated, his tone both firm and tender. "I don't want you overexerting yourself." There was a hint of a pout on your lips as Draco spoke, making him chuckle softly, despite the situation. He knew you were probably just as frustrated and needy as he was, but he also knew that your body was still fragile, still recovering from your recent ordeal. "Don't give me that face, you stubborn girl," he said, gently flicking your nose. "You're not going to sway me on this. You need to sleep, and that's final." With a soft sigh, Draco leaned down, his lips gently brushing against your forehead in a tender kiss. He gently pulled the covers up around you, carefully tucking them in around you. He sat on the edge of the bed, watching as you settled into the sheets. "You be good and get some rest now, all right?" he murmured, his fingers gently brushing some loose hair away from your face, his touch light and affectionate. "No arguing. You need to heal." As he was sure you were comfortable and the blankets were snugly tucked around you, Draco slowly stood up from the bed. With one last affectionate glance your way, he reached over and clicked off the lights, plunging the room into semi-darkness. The room was now cast in shadows, only a faint hint of moonlight creeping in through the curtains. He stood silently for a moment, watching you, his heart a mixture of tenderness and worry. Draco's gaze softened as he heard the slight uncertainty in your voice. He knew you wanted him to stay, to be close to you, and he wanted the same damn thing. He let out a low sigh, his shoulders slumping slightly as he nodded in the darkness. "Yeah, I'm staying the night," he confirmed, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not going anywhere, darling. I'll be right here the whole night." With a flick of his wand, Draco wordlessly cleaned up the remnants of the dinner they'd shared. The dirty dishes vanished, leaving the table spotless and the leftover food neatly stored away. He glanced back at you one more time, making sure you were comfortable, before he walked around the room, extinguishing all the candles, plunging the room into complete darkness. Then he carefully made his way back to the bed, slipping in beside you. Draco's breath hitched in his chest at your soft request. God, he wanted that more than anything. He wanted to wrap you in his arms and hold you close, to feel the warmth of your body against his. He gently shifted closer, his arm sliding under your pillow, his body moulding against yours. "Yes, darling," he murmured, his voice gruff but soft. "I can hold you." As you settled into his embrace, Draco wrapped his arm tighter around you, pulling you closer against him. His body heat enveloped you, and he buried his face in your hair, inhaling your scent. Outside, the gentle pitter-patter of the rain continued to fall, a soothing backdrop to the quiet moment between you two. He held you tightly, his hand tracing lazy circles on your back, as if he was trying to soothe your every worry away. The feeling of holding you in his arms again after so long was almost overwhelming for Draco. He pressed his face into your hair, his chest tight with emotion. The sense of relief and gratitude was almost dizzying. "God, you don't know how much I've missed holding you like this," he murmured, his voice thick with feelings. He squeezed you gently, his arms tightening almost protectively around you. "I thought I might never get to hold you like this again." With you safely in his arms, Draco felt a sense of peace wash over him. The sound of your even breathing, the feeling of your body against his, it was all like a balm on his weary soul. He closed his eyes, the fatigue from the past few days slowly catching up to him. He nuzzled his nose into your hair, inhaling your scent one more time. "Good night, my darling," he whispered, his words muffled against your hair. And with that, Draco finally relaxed, allowing himself to drift off into a dreamless sleep, comforted in holding you close.